Now some of you here. So just in case you're wondering, I am back on my phone this week and not on my little widgery-doodry thing, because that's on my laptop, and I left it at work this week. So no fancy slides this week, but just to say that if you find this webinar useful, then you can pay what you want on joinclubsoda.co.uk/shop. And in there, if you just find this useful, basically you're buying me a drink, right? The cost of a drink, $4.99. If you like this webinar and find it helpful and inspiring and useful for your journey, please make a donation. The other thing to say is to look at the events tab and see that we've got another Mindful Drinking Festival coming up on the 24th and 25th of November. I will be posting more about that because we will do a Club Soda social on the Friday evening and on the Saturday during the day. And we also have our global social on the 9th of December, which Janet is helping me coordinate. And that's really cool because what we're trying to do is encourage anybody in their locality to get a social going. We know that some of you have already done stuff before, so the 9th of December is a really good date for you to pitch your next one for. Or just find one other person locally who might want to meet up for a drink, and that can be it. Or if you happen to live like in Spain, like some of our members do, and actually don't have many Club Soda members near, then you can join in the fun online on the day from your own home, and we'll have lots of ways for you to interact online through the Facebook group. So put that date in your diary. If you're in a different time zone, that might mean it's brunch or a really late supper. I don't quite know which, but you're also welcome to join in. But it's a way to start putting the feelers out and find somebody else near you who might become your first new sober friend. And I know a few of you are really keen to find people. I know Lorraine's keen to find people in the Guildford and Basingstoke area to do something with. So that's just to put that out as a feeler. Cool. So today I'm going to talk about myths again. And I know I did this 2 weeks ago, but there were actually so many I couldn't keep up with. I couldn't actually do it all within 40 minutes. And also since then, lots of you have shared other myths with me. And if you've got any myths that you think you would like me to cover today, then put it in the feed of this video and I will take a look and add them into the list. But we had a social yesterday, so quite a few interesting nuggets came up from there as well. And it's also important to remember that the myths that we have about our drinking are built up through a number of different layers, I would say. One of them is a society layer, and that's not, well, some of that's deliberate because advertising is part of what we have. Marketing and advertising is part of what makes society, and of course we're bombarded with images all the time that tell us certain things. But our history as a culture goes back, with alcohol, goes back a long way, and so actually we will have myths that have been perpetuated through generation and generation about alcohol. We will have role models that are drinkers in our family going back years and years and years. Certainly in my family that's the case, and you will be unsurprised to know that through that continual normalization, through that continual social acceptance, through that continual set of community jokes we have about drinking and coming in with a hangover and all of that sort of stuff, we have reinforced a set of behaviours in ourselves that are well beyond our control. They're part of the DNA of our society that we've inherited. And just unpicking those is hard work, let alone the myths that we've created for ourselves that have allowed us to actually step outside what is considered normal drinking and drink more, or justify our own drinking behaviour when we've thought, well, it's because I've got a particularly hard job, or I work in a particularly boozy industry, or all of those sort of things. Some of those are justifications that we have allowed ourselves to create in order to allow us to drink more than even we know is socially acceptable. So it's important to recognise that these things are not some failing on our part. This isn't something that we have failed to do. It's not that we're stupid and we're not clever people. It's just that actually subtle reinforcement, day by day, generation by generation, of convenient truths are part of being human. And around alcohol, they are everywhere. We are in an alcohol-soaked society. So it's no surprise that we've absorbed loads and loads of things that have allowed us to justify our drinking. And so I'm going to cover some more of those myths today. But I also just wanted to pull on, I'm not sure if Kim, you've seen some of Kim's posts in the last couple of days. Kim regularly does a blog for us. And on Tuesday, she will be in a magazine talking about her drinking. But what's interesting is she's been off the radar slightly because she's been so busy meeting lots of new people. And she really does encapsulate for me that myth that somebody who was always a social person, who might have used drugs and alcohol in the past as part of their social life, had friends that were all doing the same thing, can make a change in their life and still be that same social butterfly, and actually has found so much joy from connecting with people sober rather than always through a drunken haze. And we sometimes really confuse what friendship is through alcohol. We think that because we've spent a whole evening in someone's company, that's amazing friendship, and we're really lucky that we have those people in our life. And what we realise is friendship goes a lot deeper than that. And it doesn't have to be about long nights out. It can be about a short conversation. It can be about a trip and a journey together once in a while. It can be many other things. And it's also possible to find new friends. It's not impossible. In fact, on Club Soda, there are 3,000 people here that you could possibly connect with who are in the same boat as you, have all got their own story, but you've probably got quite a bit in common with. And the reason why I think you've got something in common with them is because actually we are drawn to people like ourselves, both in the real world and in the online world. And by coming to Club Soda, there's probably something about me and you see that's appealing, about the way we describe Club Soda, about the way we welcome people in and all of that sort of stuff, that means that you feel comfortable here. And because of that, you're likely to be with other people, find that other people are attracted to that as well, and we've all got some form of commonality. So you're already in a good starting place to find new connections and new friends. You won't like everybody, and you don't normally like everybody in a space, so that's okay. But it's quite possible that you can find people here that are local, that share something in common with you, that share an outlook on life. And most of all, what they do have here is a desire to change drinking and make new friendships and deal with life sober. So that's already a common view that you've got between you. So don't underestimate the power of the people that you have here, the power of going and meeting those people. Yesterday's social had 20-odd people, some of whom have come from outside of London, taken the punt to meet some strangers, sober. And you know what? It paid off. There were so many belly laughs. It was ridiculous. So, myths broken every day. So what can I tell you? What are the other popular myths that we tell ourselves about alcohol? Well, firstly, I'm just going to check that nobody else has given me a myth to add to the list. They haven't. Shocker. Come on, you lot. You're like clever people. You know some of the myths that affected you. Could you write some of them down, please, so that I can address them? Because, you know, there might be a possibility that I might run out of things to say. No, really, there might be. I might run out of things to say. Okay, so here's a couple of other myths. The first is I'm too busy to give up. And it's interesting because I had this conversation with somebody yesterday who needs to make some changes in their life, but says, but I'm so busy. And I sat with them and said, actually, you are always busy. Ever since I've known you, and you've been a member of Club Soda for over 2 years, you have always been busy. That is not something about you that's going to change. What you need to do is to work out how in that busyness you can create some space for you for change, because all change does take some time and some energy. But it's about how important it is to you to be able to recognise how important that change is to you, that you can make some space for that in your life. And that doesn't have to be masses of time. We're not talking about, oh my God, you're working a full-time job, you've got kids in the evening, and then you've got, you know, play dates and all of those things. That means you're too busy. We're not always talking about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours every day to make change. We might sometimes be talking about just half an hour to yourself where you can put, you can listen to something, you can read, you can watch a webinar, you can read a book, you can read some people's blogs, you can flick through Club Soda, you could just sit quietly and do absolutely nothing, but put some time aside to practice not drinking. Because if you're a busy person, you will always be busy, but I can guarantee you that by putting time aside and getting to grips with your drinking, you will create more time, because there is nothing that takes more time away from you than hangovers. There is nothing that takes more time away from you than consistently thinking about having a drink at 4 p.m. in the afternoon and contriving different ways around justifying to yourself how you might be able to do that. Oh, well, there was a stressful meeting this morning, so I think I deserve a drink today at 5 o'clock. That actually takes huge amounts of energy. To just be able to free yourself from those thoughts will be amazing in the longer term. So just as you would put time aside to go to the gym if you wanted to get thin, or you would take time aside to put a nicotine patch on if you were not smoking, or you were to spend some time putting some beauty cream on every day to deal with the wrinkles, whatever it is you want to achieve in your life, you need to put some time aside for some actions that contribute towards your success. And regardless of how busy you are, you can make time for that if you're committed to doing this. And I guess for me, if people always make excuses around being too busy to do stuff like changing your drinking, then it means you're not wholly committed. And the thing that you need to concentrate on right now is this change right for you? Do you want to make this change? Why do you want to make this change? In the file section of Club Soda Together, there's something called the decision balance sheet, which is really useful to do because it helps you map out that bigger picture of what the consequences are if you don't change. And actually, if you're somebody who says you're too busy to change your drinking, one of the consequences of not changing may be that you will never have time, not only to change your drinking, but to do some of the other things you want to achieve with your life. So, myth gone. There's another myth that I hear often, which is that I can give up any time. And funnily enough, I want to do a survey at some point actually and ask all of you how many people you think you've influenced by just telling people you don't drink anymore. Because at the minute there's a small group of people who I'm friends with in our office. They don't work with us, they're other companies, but have all decided to do Sober October, and they're spending all of their time in the kitchen talking to me about how to do it. It's really fascinating. We are just by modelling good behaviour ourselves, or a desirable behaviour ourselves, we can make changes in others. But what's been really interesting about those discussions is that those people have said to me, I've always thought that I could give up any time, but now I'm actually taking a month off and I'm petrified that I can't do it. It seems that the myth that I can give up any time is a reinforcing of it's like a mantra that you might trot out on a regular basis because you're too frightened to try, and that because you might have done it once in 1996, you believe you can still do it at any time, but really deep down you're not sure you can, and you're frightened of failure. So you trot out the mantra that I can do this at any time. And actually somebody said to me, he goes, I can't believe it, I'm not even on day 7 and I'm really struggling, I'm finding it really hard. He's just brought a load of beers off of us basically and gone, right, I need some help, I need to get through this weekend. And he said to himself, I always thought I could give up any time, and it's not true. And the only way to prove that you can give up any time is to do it. Go off and do a month now and really see how it feels. Don't use it as an excuse or as a mantra that's really hiding another reality, okay? Another is that I'll put on weight if I give up. And I see this often because a lot of you are really worried about the fact that you eat sugar, or you're eating a lot more now that you're changing your drinking. I have to say to you that any change you go through, if you give up smoking, if you decide to start doing exercise, you'll eat more if you start doing exercise, or any change you go through means that you might start pulling on other things in order to replace the behaviour that you're doing, particularly when it's a behaviour that involves putting something in your mouth. It's a very strong action linked to a lot of change that happens as a result of putting that substance in your mouth, because your brain changes, it hits your brain, and all of those bits, all those pleasure centres in your brain that make you really excited. And so you're very used to doing that and fulfilling that action whenever you've wanted to, because you can, and it's created a connection, it's created a result and an action. So that makes it quite difficult to change. So it's no surprise that people end up snacking a bit more, right? Because you're putting something in your mouth, and sugar does stimulate those bits of your brain as well, just not quite as badly as alcohol does. So it's no surprise that you also go for sugar. Alcohol stimulates your pancreas and creates an effect in your body that's just like drinking lots of sugar. So it's not a surprise that you crave sugary things. What I will say to you is this: it's just a phase you're going through, all right? You will get over that, but you have to recognise what's the biggest challenge that you're facing at the moment and what's the most important thing that you're doing. And the most important thing is you're trying to break a deep-rooted psychological link with alcohol. And that will be harder than dealing with anything to do with fat and sugar and calories and carbs that you might have to deal with later, or you've been dealing with all of your life, because, hey, who out of us hasn't been on a diet for most of our life? So what I would say to you is this, is that if you read other people's posts and go, oh, I've noticed people are eating more sugar, so I don't want to put weight on, so I'm not going to give up drinking. What you have just done is you have created a convenient excuse for you to not even start. Now, not everyone's the same. Some people pair their change their drinking up with a bit of a health kick because it does divert their attention. So it's not true that everyone puts on weight or eats lots of sugar, but equally, you have to recognise that you are using this as an excuse not to even get started. And my suggestion is you get started. And if you end up eating some Haribo, just put it in context. A packet of Haribo is still far lower in calories than tons and tons of beer, particularly because you're likely to eat 2,000 extra calories on a hangover the following day. And that once you've dealt with your drinking, you can deal with your sugar. But your drinking is still the hardest thing that you're going to be doing. So please don't use it as an excuse to not even start, because that's what I can often see happening in the group. So it's a myth. It might be a reality for a short amount of time, but it's also a myth that's designed to stop you from changing. The other is that you will immediately lose weight if you give up. And because depending on how we take in information, things that are important to us, we may know immediately that there's 240 calories in a Guinness, and we may already know that alcohol's empty calories. We may have done Slimming World or Weight Watchers, and we know how many sins alcohol is. So we already know that every gram of alcohol has something like 9 calories in it. Don't take that as gospel from me, but it does have calories in it, right? And it makes you eat more calories and. So you will think, excellent, so if I give up drinking, all of those other things will disappear and weight will drop off me. And again, that may not happen for a number of reasons. One is that alcohol affects your metabolism, and it can take up to a year for that to get back to normal. Or it may be that you are eating some extra snacks. Or it may be that you're just built differently and losing weight is different for you. You may be older, you may be perimenopausal, you may be have an underactive thyroid like me, or many other things. But again, the reason why I say this is a myth that's related to drinking is because what happens if some people aren't seeing improvements in their weight in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they consider that it hasn't been worth changing their drinking, because the one thing that they had pinned all their hopes on seeing a change in hasn't actually happened. But of course, you focused on one thing and you haven't recognised and seen all the other positive changes that might have happened, like your improvement in sleep and your energy's getting better, and your concentration's better, and your productivity at work's good, and you're more present for your children. So don't pin all your hopes on one thing that you hope will change, because if it doesn't happen, then you'll consider it a failure and you'll hit the fuck it button. Instead, try and look at the change you're trying to achieve in the round, and recognise that changing your drinking can achieve more than just one thing. And that one thing that you were hoping for may not be the one thing that's most important for you ultimately. And the same with, I will feel amazing immediately after giving up. I remember some people doing Dry January a couple of years ago, and there's a point 2 weeks into Dry January where they send everyone an email going, you must be feeling fantastic right now. You've done 2 weeks without alcohol. And actually that's not true too. Because if you're heavy drinkers, which a majority of people in Club Soda are, we're in the higher quartile of drinkers, then we will be feeling some of the impacts and effects of giving up drinking. We will have some withdrawal symptoms. That may be that we're suddenly wanting to drink tons and tons of water like we've never wanted to before. We actually may feel more tired. Like I've always said, I felt more tired for 3 months after giving up drinking than I do now, but I just had lots and lots of naps. It was like my body was recovering, my body was repairing and restoring. You may feel a lot lower, a little bit more depressed than normal. You actually may have trouble sleeping rather than sleeping better. There are lots of symptoms of withdrawal from alcohol that some people will feel really big, and some of us will only feel a little bit, but it doesn't mean you'll all automatically feel brilliant after 2 weeks. This is a long game, guys, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. You're in it for the long haul and for the improvement it will give you for the rest of your life, right? So don't use any of those as an excuse to hit the fuck it button. I'm a hopeless case. This breaks my heart when I see people write this on Club Soda. I'm on day one again. I'm a hopeless case. La la la. Maybe I'm just one of those people that would never manage to do it. La la la. All I can say is if you're somebody who says that on Club Soda after maybe having a lapse, then you're clearly not, because you've come onto a place the following day after having a lapse. You've told other people about it, and more often than not, you've started day one. And the one thing that I've noticed consistently is it doesn't matter how many day ones you have, it's how quickly you pick up in between your lapses that makes the difference. The quicker you jump back on that wagon, the quicker you recommit yourself to the goal ahead, the more you realise that this is a journey where you may fall off a number of times, but you can get there in the end. At some point it will stick, will make a difference. I so wish I could just wave a magic wand for you and make it better. I really, really do. But this is, as I've just said, a marathon, not a sprint. And each time you fall off the wagon, you will learn. But there is no such thing as a hopeless case. It's about learning, rethinking your strategies, deciding what you're going to do next, asking for help, working out where that help can come from. And we'll all be different. We'll all manage it differently because of who we are, our backgrounds, how much we've drunk in the past, the things that are stresses in our lives and all of those sort of things. None of us are the same, so don't expect to always be able to emulate other people in the group, but know that the other people in the group are those role models, and not only that, they're the people that are there to help you get back on the wagon every time it happens. And I'm really proud of you when you come back on the group. You're never a hopeless case. And it's the same with the other myth around, I just don't have any willpower. Now, willpower doesn't exist, right? I mean, if you can point to where it is in your body, I will salute you. If you can tell me which bit of your brain is about willpower, I will salute you for finding it. But it isn't an actual thing, right? It's not a gene that some people have and some people don't have. What it is actually, it's about confidence and commitment. How committed are you to changing your drinking? How confident are you that you can do it? If you're not very confident, what things can you put in place to make yourself more confident? What is it that's stopping you being totally committed? The closer you get to 10 out of 10 on both of those, the more likely you are to change. The more likely you are to put plans in place that mean you're going to achieve that change, and so on. So actually, willpower isn't a thing. It is about confidence, commitment, and planning. And it's about putting yourself in the right situation, the right frame of mind that you can do something. And so there isn't tons of people on Club Soda who have an amazing willpower gene. There are people who have just put in the hours, put in the time, done the reading, made the plans, all of those things to finally get there, and fallen off the wagon countless times, but finally they've managed to get there and get to a sprint that's longer and longer and longer. So willpower isn't a gene that you don't have, but it is a skill that you can acquire. It is something that you can learn. Taking up running or drinking alcohol-free beers is just replacing one addiction with another. This one really pisses me off, right? Because this is what people who are generally drinking say. Oh, you've just replaced one addiction with another. Now, actually, running, okay, it may affect your joints over time, and particularly if you cane it really hard at the beginning, it may, you know, tire you out a bit more, all of those things. But it is nothing like the damage that alcohol is doing to you. And it certainly isn't so addictive that you'll find it difficult to stop. I think there are a few people for whom that might be the case. But actually, no, what it is a new pursuit, a release, a distraction, a way to get some natural endorphins and some natural highs if you're running and doing exercise. It is not replacing addiction. For people to use that language is really, really demeaning and really demoralising and can really throw you off balance, because what they're doing is they're equating something you're doing that's quite healthy for you with something you were doing that was really self-destructive and dangerous and affected every bit of your life, from how much money you spent to your relationships, to your hangovers, your energy, your productivity, how good your skin looked, everything. How dare they equate those two things and make that suggestion that they are both equal in the harm that they're doing to you? They're doing it because they're jealous, right? So just ignore them. And the same with the alcohol-free drinks, right? Just because it's got the word beer on the front, it doesn't mean that it's suddenly got sudden magical powers. A 0.5% beer is a good drink in its own right. And what it won't do is hit the pleasure centres in your brain in the same way as alcohol does. So just because you drink 4 of them in an evening, it doesn't mean you're addicted to them. And in fact, it's really interesting how people in club soda use them for quite a while once they change their drinking, because of course we're changing a psychological addiction in large part, which is that continuous act of drinking. And so actually it's a really useful way to keep some of the same actions or some of the same traditions that you've got in your life, but change the substance. But over time you'll find you probably use them less, because they are not addictive, right? They are not addictive. That would be like saying, oh yeah, you've just got addicted to lemonade. Or if you're suddenly drinking lots of water, oh, you've just replaced alcohol with an addiction to alcohol with an addiction to water. Oh, aren't you a terrible person? Fuck off, right? Fuck off. It's not true. And in fact, highly sugary drinks are more likely to hit those same pleasure centres and be more triggery than some of the alcohol-free options. And don't forget, there are loads of goods that you eat and drink in your daily life that have traces of alcohol in. They just don't have to have it on the label. So you are the master of your destiny, right? If you really are caning the alcohol-free beers so hard that you're passing out because you've taken on too much fluid rather than alcohol, then yes, that's a problem. But that's not what's going on here, is it? What you're doing is you're steadily moving away from alcohol being a really, really important part of your life and using alcohol-free drinks as a treat on occasion or as your nightly drink as you change your behaviour, and it's nowhere near addictive, okay? Other people also say having an alcohol-free beer, that's cheating. And in fact, somebody in my office said that this week. He said, well, I'm doing a sober October, so I sort of feel like I'm cheating. I should not have these either. And I said, well, would you have a Coke or lemonade then? He goes, oh, well, they're really horrible. I said, so you're not, you know, you've just picked up a 0.05% beer here. Sprite's got about the same in it. So all in all, what is it that's going to help you get through this month? This is a trace element of alcohol. In my book, you will not be breaking sober October if you have an alcohol-free beer. And what you want to do is get through the month successfully, not create a barrier that's going to make it even harder for you. That is a totally non-existent mythical barrier that you've created in your head because somehow, because it's got the word beer on the bottle, you're cheating. It's not, okay? You know, a alcohol-free gin and tonic is a flavoured tonic, right? Just because it says it's an alcohol-free gin and tonic. Ooh, my phone's doing something weird. Hang on a minute. What's it doing? It does something weird. Anyway, you're not cheating, right? Okay, and then the other thing is, I'm just going to try and work out, my phone's doing some funny things. See that? Ooh. Right. The other thing is, some people say the cravings are too bad. I can't deal with them. I must be addicted, and therefore I can't do this. What you're feeling is not a craving because you're Okay, so people talk about cravings a bit like withdrawal symptoms. We're used to seeing, oh, when we watch Trainspotting, right, the film, we were like, oh no, people get cravings when they give up because they're getting withdrawal symptoms. And yes, actually, you may well be feeling some withdrawal symptoms, but the biggest symptom you'll be feeling is discomfort. Discomfort from not doing something you've been used to doing year in, year out, day in, day out for years and years and years. And you are not able to satisfy that bit of your brain that says, now's time for a drink, now's time for a drink, now's time for a drink. And so what you're getting is discomfort because you can't do something you're used to doing immediately. You can't satisfy that feeling that you have basically psychologically learned over years and years and years. That's something that will go away over time. It's not that you are continuously suffering from cravings. You are experiencing discomfort. It won't kill you, and it does get easier and easier. The more and more you can blast through that and ride it, the easier it gets. So you're not getting some sort of, train spotting, withdrawal cravings that mean that you're about to explode. It's not going to happen, right? You're just going through some discomfort. You can manage it. It's not going to kill you. So I think I'm at the end of my list. So I'm going to check what's in everyone else's list. Gremlins in the phone. Jasmine, that's just normal. That's life. That's not a drinking myth. Let me just see what else anyone has said. It's really weird how the messages come up on here. Fine. You all seem to be perfect. That is also a myth, right? None of you are perfect. Perfection is not actually achievable. And so make sure that every time that you try and change something about your life, whether it's making really shit cakes because you think they should be healthy, I think I'd rather have one really gorgeous sugar-filled cake than my 10 really crap cocoa, honey, spelt cakes. Then try and live my life on these. Perfection is not achievable. If you can get 90% there, my friends, then you've got an awful long way. But don't use perfection as an excuse to hit the fuck it button. All right? Because we're all flawed individuals, but we're flawed individuals together. Hooray! And we're sober flawed individuals. Hooray! Excellent. Right, I'm going to leave it there, folks, after my phone went funny. So I'll speak to you soon. Bye.